Hey, we're coming to you live 10 minutes later than scheduled, 13 actually, but we're getting better.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'll take it away. Welcome to the week 5 of That Fantasy Show. We are coming to you live. We have a new setup today. Technical difficulties, what's fingers crossed, will not come back this week. And we got a good show coming for you.
I'm really excited about the show. How about you, Ella?
Yeah, me too. I'm really excited too.
So I am your host, Michael Amen, your friendly local neighborhood YouTuber, joined by...
I am Brian Wilczek.
All right, and how about you?
Miss Ella Renee.
Okay, and like I said, we got a big, exciting show today. So we are in a new location. We should have cleared up technical difficulty issues. All we have to do is bring our talent and our expertise, and hopefully everything goes smooth. How about that?
Yeah, and if anything is going wrong, please chat us. Otherwise, we are inept and we will not know.
So we're
Thank
going to
you.
get rolling. So, as you know, if you've been following along, we like to start our show a certain way. So, Ella, why don't you take us away?
Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Play ball.
Yeah, I
Thank you,
love
Ella.
starting the week like that, and you should as well. I love this country, greatest on the world. As though we say, let's get this show started. Week 5 in the NFL. I can't believe we're already this far into the season.
No, it's crazy, and I think we've learned a lot. Some teams are up and some are down. What teams stick out to you so far this year?
So
that you weren't
obviously,
expecting?
just the typical teams with the record. It's Minnesota.
Oh, absolutely.
It's shocking, but they're performing well. Even though Buffalo didn't pull out a win last week, still very impressed by them.
Oh yeah,
And there's a couple teams underperforming. Obviously, Cincinnati, Baltimore, a matchup today. Neither of those teams are performing well, and yeah, it's about time where, before I was telling you to relax a little bit, and now it might be time to start panicking or feeling good about yourself. It
Yeah.
depends.
and I think before we get further into it, I think Ella's gonna step away and she'll be back for Ella's pick 6. So thank you, Ella.
Ella, when you come back for your pick 6, we can't wait to hear about your week.
But
Okay,
yeah,
sweetheart.
Minnesota firing on all cylinders despite a last-minute quarterback change, and then the Bills is just I don't know, receiving by committee over there. Anybody could go off at any time. So for fantasy, it's kind of frustrating when you got a few receivers you thought might go off, Keon Coleman, a couple other
Gee.
guys. You're like a little frustrated.
Yeah. And, it was an exciting week 4. And like I said, we are moving on to week 5. We already kicked off the Thursday night game, and that was a banger.
Oh yeah,
I can't
Absolutely.
believe I'm one of the guys that bet the under. Wow, wow, wow.
I tried to copy your bet and accidentally forgot to pick the over/under, which turned out to be a good play, but still missed out on a
These
couple
Thursday
legs.
night games, they've been giving us studs. We've been averaging around 35, 40 points a game. It's been boring. Everybody talks about it. I thought it was going to be more of the same. I couldn't have been more wrong.
Yeah, and then they come out, they're just
It was
Man.
firing off. There
Nothing
were
more to say
points
than that.
points left and right. If you had fantasy guys going Thursday night, you probably did pretty well. Kirk Cousins, can't believe Kirk Cousins, 500 something yards. Psh.
On Matt Ryan night, comes out and breaks his record.
And I would be willing to bet Kirk Cousins was available in most leagues. I know he was available in the Closing with Steve Dynasty League that we follow along with, and he's already got 40 something points just sitting there on the free agent waiver wire. So
Oh yeah, and I think in the family league, he's just sitting on a bench. So
yeah,
But-
and that just goes to show when you're drafting, there's value all over the board at certain positions. There's no need to take a quarterback first round, second round, because you can find guys that are going to have incredible nights like that are just going to be sitting on the waiver wire.
oh,
So
absolutely. Like I always preach when I do a draft, I'm not prioritizing a quarterback, and people go early, and I'll just sit for 10, 11, 12 guy, and you can never guess preseason. You might get some consistency out like Mahomes or a couple guys.
yeah, and you still want a top guy. You want to feel good about your guy, but you don't want to like reach where there was receivers that were going to get you 8 to 10 catches every other week that you could have took in that draft slot instead of trying to take a quarterback who it's roller coasters at that position. You kind of got to just roll with the punches there.
Yeah, to switch over to another position, I think there were 3 running backs that consistently being drafted top 3. CMC consensus number 1. Then you had Brees Hall. I can't think of the other guy.
Bijan.
That's it.
Bijan.
Yeah.
And in our family league, he fell to me at pick 9. And as we've stated before, I'm not a running back prioritizer. I would rather punt that position. However, just the simple fact he was available to me at pick 9, I picked him. And
yeah, I mean, who wouldn't? I mean, you're sitting there 9-10, like, oh, okay.
And I'm unhappy with him, if we're being honest. Just because there was other value there. I could have took somebody like Malik Neighbors, who's leading the league in receptions or second in yards right now. So there was other ways I could have spent value on that pick. But you roll with the punches in this game.
Yeah, Neighbors was definitely good value this year. You're getting dividends already.
And he was going in 3rd, 4th round, and it's incredible the things that he's doing. Let's talk about, for a quick second, our show last week. We kind of went off the rails a little bit.
Absolutely.
Right there.
It was a crash and burn moment. If you were there with us, we had a whole connectivity issues. We're going in and out.
It felt like we were filming on a Nintendo.
Yeah, the computer took a whole dump on me. So if you notice, we do have a new background today. We got the jerseys recentered. We're streaming live out of the basement here. We've relocated, and we have a new computer. So shout out to Deanna, my sister, for letting me get this loaner going. And while I got the Tigers foam finger, let's just talk about the little baseball.
Ooh, okay. So playoff baseball started this weekend, and it went a little bit better for one of us than it did for the other, as I am from Cleveland and Brian is from Detroit, and my Guardians went ahead and got off to a good start. The first inning, they just came out firing. We took a strong lead, and we needed that game because game 2 is going to be tough going against your guy Scooble there.
Yeah, I mean, Scooble's gone. We got our ace, and they're going to be hungry for a bounce back. And, I mean, the Tigers have been dangerous. Hottest team the second half of the year.
Yeah, it's been fun to watch them. As I said, I'm a part-time Tigers fan, not a full-time, but I want the Guardians to go all the way in. Just playoff baseball in general yesterday was exciting. Exciting week for that. But again, apologies for last week. Camera cut out. This week we are good to go.
Yeah, I didn't watch any sports yesterday because I spent the whole day basically in this ready. So.
I feel like week 5 is going to be a good show. So we're going to go into our fantasy rankings. Later on, we'll visit the Closing with Steve Dynasty League. Check out how things are going in there. We may start to preview our family league that we are in with most of our family members. And then we would also like to still get into a couple gambling recommendations. I got 2 or 3 things I like. We're not going to get rich today, but we might eat good.
All right, let's just jump right into the quarterback rankings. So I'm going to jump over to our browser. So again, Fantasy Pros, that's been our go-to ranking tool. We love the data there, and it's a consensus of multiple experts, so it's pretty reliable. And if you want to average rank, that's a good place to go. So
it's a good start. There's a couple other sites that do good stuff, but we just love to follow along these Fantasy Pro guys. If we start right away, as we always say, those top guys, you don't necessarily need our help. However, Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen, I expect them to have insane days. If you have those guys, I hope you feel pretty comfortable going into your matchup. Just great matchups for them. Josh Allen, a revenge game. Lamar Jackson going against the Bengals, and they can't stop the run. Those 2 guys are going to do great for you.
Yeah, shout out to rookie Jane Daniels breaking the top 3 here in the rankings.
Jaden Daniels is firing on all cylinders. I love this kid. He's came into the league, and he's just lit it up. This is great for football. Great story. If you have Jaden Daniels, I hope you're starting him and you're not scared anymore. He's a start, and you don't even got to worry about it. Just wait for his bye and replace him, and that's it. I'd keep him going. One of the guys I wanted to focus on, I kind of went to bat for him last week. I said he was going to go off. I stamped a table. I put my name on it. He didn't necessarily go off, but he didn't have a bad week either. He got 2 touchdowns, almost 200 yards. He didn't turn the ball over. Trevor Lawrence, my guy with the luscious locks.
There they are.
I like his matchup again this week. So last week he was ranked QB 32 going into the week for the season, and he creeped up to 26. As you can see there, his highest point total for the season, only right around 15 points. Not the most exciting, but it's not a dud. And if he was a guy you drafted high, you like that.
Yeah, I mean, if you played him and you just need somebody you weren't trusting your go-to guy, you're happy with 15.
And as we're heading into bye weeks, if this guy was available or he's your bench guy, this is a great guy to start if you have any of the guys on bye this week.
I do
I
think we're
would plug
getting
him
an
in.
ad in the background.
And
Okay.
it's a division matchup at home. I just expect Trevor Lawrence again. I'll go to bat for guys that are getting crapped on, and they don't like to give Trevor Lawrence much credit these days, but I'll stick up for my boy.
All right. Who else you got in quarterbacks?
So I also liked Dak's matchup. So it is a night game in Pittsburgh, and sometimes the weather can factor into that. So I'm doing all of this without knowing what the weather is, but Dak still throws the ball like crazy. Like I said, it wasn't the most exciting game on the Thursday night game last week, but
Yeah, just around 30 to 40 attempts every week. I mean, we had 50 against Baltimore. I mean, you want to get something like that, but Pittsburgh have to, keep keep the punches rolling to run the score up. So we'll see what happens.
and that Cowboys offense, it's got to get rolling at some
yeah.
point. Like I said, they can drop 30 on you in an instant. I know they're not necessarily running the ball as well as they like, but I love his matchup today. I know it's at Pittsburgh. They're not necessarily lighting the league up. They are winning, but they're not really scoring a lot. So if the Cowboys can, get their 20-25 points, I think that puts them easy, and that obviously bodes well for Dak. Outside of that, not really the biggest fan. Other matchups, it's all pretty standard and average. Outside of the top 20, I don't really like anybody, so I hope you
Yeah.
have somebody within the top 20 to start this
Last
week.
note for me, keep an eye on Baker. He's been putting up good numbers. He's only ranked 12th here, but I mean, he's put up nearly 30 points almost 3 times this year. So I keep an eye out. Maybe he'll get some respect if he can do it again at New Orleans with a tough matchup.
Tough matchup with the cornerbacks there, but Baker's having a great season. Good for him. Love that pick. We recommended him in week 1, and he's been rolling.
Yes, sir. And with that, let's move over to running backs.
Running backs. Is that your favorite position?
Absolutely not.
It's not
It
mine.
is probably the toughest for me to figure out. Tight ends are tough, but for me, it's running backs. It's oh man.
And this week it's a little tougher because not only are 4 teams on a bye week, there's a lot of guys that have their starter injured. So people like Tyrone Tracy are having to start, or there's a couple other
Yeah.
options.
In bye weeks, if you don't already know, Lions, Chargers. What else we got?
I don't know.
I
I'm
had
drawing
it on
a blank.
we put it out on the short this week. We highlighted the
The
bye
Eagles
weeks. Oh yep, Eagles, Chargers, Lions,
and somebody.
somebody. Yeah, if you got it, right.
So the top guy this week, Jordan Mason. Again, we're surprised by that because he was a waiver wire pickup earlier this year. I'm pretty sure nobody drafted him, and
Man.
he's turning out to be excellent.
And you
so
were weary on the waiver too, because you're like, oh, CMC's coming back. Christian McCaffrey.
and now some of the news on that is he might not be coming back for a little while. So if you have Jordan Mason, you're pretty happy and you're rolling right along.
You're very happy. And
Oh.
especially number 1 ranked running back in PPR format.
Absolutely. And Kenneth Walker coming back this week, full steam going against that Giants defense. Seattle back home. I like how the offense was moving the
Yeah.
ball last week.
He
They
had a
didn't,
monster game against the Lions.
and
I'm
they
sure.
didn't get the win, but that Lions team is tough, and they still put up a good fight. So, yeah,
Man,
you look at
3
that total.
TDs. You'll take that.
So I don't expect 3 TDs this week, but I do expect a big week out of him. Again, top 14 guys. I would go to bat for all of those except Najee Harris. I'm fully out on Najee Harris. If you have him, sell.
And ETN, I'm not happy with him in our family league.
Okay, that's another guy, and it's not even the best matchup today. Might find the end zone, but I'm just all out on Najee Harris. He doesn't get receptions. He's not finding the end zone. Yeah, he's just a guy to stay away from.
Only broke 10 points 1 game this year.
Yeah,
Let's look
nothing
at ETN as
exciting.
Well, ETN, yeah, just hovering around 10.
So those are pretty average numbers, and like I said, I guarantee you can find
So-
somebody on your waiver wire
You
right
picked him
now
up
that's
top
going to
3
do
rounds.
that exact same
Absolutely.
thing. Speaking of waiver wire, one of the hot ads this week because Jonathan Taylor's out in Indianapolis. Trey Sermon. Don't fully know what to expect, but he's a guy I would take over someone like Najee Harris just because I'm disappointed in his output. So that's a name I would keep an eye on. We obviously had a couple other guys going to Thursday night, but there's, like I said, Tyrone Tracy out in New York Giants. He's going to get some work.
Yeah, so I'm just flashing up Trey Sermon here. before we move on. He's ranked around here 22, so trending up, obviously, because of Jonathan Taylor being out. And what was your next one?
And also Tyrone Tracy right there at number 29 for the New
All
York
right.
Giants. Don't fully know what to expect, but the Giants, they were definitely moving the ball, and
Yeah,
take a flyer on him just
yeah.
because he's a rookie and he's getting a start.
Handful of attempts this year, nothing crazy, and we'll see how he handles a larger workload.
And in this fantasy game, you got to take flyers on somebody. You can't sit here and have all your loyalty locked up in guys that you drafted. You don't owe these guys anything,
Oh, no.
especially if you're in a redraft league.
Yeah.
You could be gone at any second.
Yeah.
However, you still want to remain loyal to some of your people with value. Maybe they're just having a bad week. I'm not saying go drop Tyreek Hill, but
Yeah.
I'm saying you could drop Najee Harris and not feel guilty.
One
about
guy
that.
I'm keeping an eye on, and we got Brad Squillets in the comment. And he's mentioning he has Pacheco on IR in one of his leagues, and then he's got Jonathan Taylor and Tony Pollard on bye, so he has to start Zeke Elliott and Samaje Perine.
And that's a perfect example right
Yeah.
there. So that's why you got to do
Yeah.
a little research and you got to put your faith in a little people. Some of the older guys, Kareem Hunt, obviously
back
right
to
there.
Pacheco being on IR, and then Carson Steele. Sorry, we recommended him or at least gave him a shout last
Oh,
week
my
because he dropped the ball.
And I put my name on that and it didn't work out for me, and that's okay. I'll own up to that. Still, he might be able to do something later in the season, but I think they're going to go with a little more veteran help this
Oh
week.
yeah, I think if you picked up Kareem Hunt, you're starting him this week.
And a lot of the veteran help, especially in Kansas City, they just want these running backs to also be able to block, pick up blitzes.
Edwards Hilaire on Hilaire, he's on IR too, so he might be activated here soon. So he might come in and take some workload from Hunt, but definitely this week you want to put Hunt in.
And prayers to Brad.
Prayers
I
up,
hope
Brad.
that works out for you. But like I said, take some comfort in just taking flyers on some guys. Like I said, put your faith in a guy. I mean, what are you gonna do? You got no other options.
Anything else here in running backs?
Outside of that, like I said, I don't really like too much today. If you got to plug and play some guys, there's some guys I would stay away from. Yeah, I would probably, try my best to find people ranked towards the top. So if you find a ranking site that you like, if you're not using Fantasy Pros, try to get as close to the top as you can, no matter what. And if you got to drop somebody, that's fine. A lot of people roster 2 defenses or an extra kicker. Those are scenarios
I would not recommend an extra kicker unless you have Aubrey and he's on a bye week and you want to just hold on to him.
That's a good point. That's the only scenario right there, because in these bye week scenarios, you may have to add drop people. Everybody's injured, but not on IR
let's look at kickers for a moment. We don't talk about kickers much on this show, but
Peyton Manning.
If you can see over here, no, I don't have it, but projected points are all right within a point of each other. You got anything, the 10 to 20 rankings are projecting around 7, and then your top guys are only projected around 8. So there's not a lot of variance, and it's real close together.
And guys do have good nights, like Young Wei Koo the other night. He got 15 to 20 something points. So there's guys that can go over that, but they may have weeks where they get 3 or 4 points.
Yeah, it's just a position you have no control. It's really just how the game flows, and if the team is scoring, and I mean if they're coming up close, you like it for a kicker because then they got to kick a field goal. So.
Yeah. My best recommendation with a kicker is to take one with a good team that scores a lot of points.
That's your best bet.
Has a good accuracy record, and then also indoors helps. If it's an indoor kicker and he's very accurate and the offense is a top 10 scoring offense, boom, there you go. That's a dream scenario. But there's variance.
2 outdoor kickers here at the top, but they're going to a dome in New Orleans for Butker. Arizona, it's inside too.
So I personally, for that, I just take the one from my favorite team, and I got no problem with Evan McPherson. Money Mac, he will stay on my team. He's on both of my leagues, and I plan on keeping him for both of the leagues.
And with that sidebar, let's jump over. I think we're ready to go to receiver.
Yeah,
huh?
yeah.
Let's jump over to wide receiver. This is where our bread and butter is.
This is where the best of the best is. This is where you're going to win your matchups right here. I promise you. If you have some of the top guys, congratulations. In the Closing with Steve League this week, it's kind of exciting for me personally.
Yeah.
I have number 2, number 3, and number 9 on that list going today. I am locked and loaded.
Collins, Jamar Chase, and Harrison Jr. Now, I'd like to pat myself as well. I have CeeDee Lamb, DK Metcalf, Chris Godwin, and Deontay Johnson. all
Let's
top 10s.
go. Let's
So
go.
I'm running out of roster spots to start them all.
And to go to show, we'll visit these rankings in the Closing with Steve League later. We are in the top 3 in scoring, and that's because we've valued receiver, and that
Yeah.
just goes to the point we've been making all season.
Yep, some
Having
more
the
on that
best
to come.
receivers will get you the best results.
Absolutely, especially in a PPR league, point per reception. All right, so what's obviously you're gonna start your top 10, 20 guys here. So what do you got outside of that?
So Terry McLaurin, again, like I said, with Jaden Daniels having a excellent start to his career, and he's actually finding him. I expect him to get in the end zone today. I don't know exactly how many catches, 4 or 5, but I just love the matchup. And a guy outside the top 20, obviously the top 20 is pretty much starting
right
to
on
forget.
the cusp there. So 24 this week.
So I just like his matchup, veteran receiver. He's definitely getting a lot of targets
Yep,
now,
solid
and
numbers the last
it's
2 weeks.
increasing. So
Yeah, I think with Jaden Daniels just settling in, it's just gonna get better. So
yeah, so he's a guy I'm gonna roll with, and there's no doubt about that. If we scroll down a little bit there, Jackson Smith and Jigba, I just like his target share there. I
Yeah,
expect that
think-
Seattle offense to keep rolling.
yeah, if you're familiar with Seattle, DK Metcalf, he might be their top guy, but he'll draw some of the harder defensive matchups, and that opens it up for a guy like Smith
And
Jigba.
this guy's finding his space, and he's not necessarily being flashy, but he's getting results. And if he finds the end zone, it's all just a bonus.
Oh yeah.
Scrolling down again, if we just go a little farther down, guys like Rashid Shaheed, he's been a favorite of ours.
Man.
He's boom or bust, but
Oh yeah, absolutely. Let's look at some of these results here. 0 in week 3 after mid-teens weeks 1 and 2, but he bounced back last week.
and so I would take those results.
I would.
You know,
I would
if
gamble that.
if he's my second or third receiver, or especially if I got him on a waiver wire and I didn't even draft him, I roll with those results.
Oh yeah.
So just another name I like, boom or bust, but a guy I'll get behind again. And outside of that, it starts to get a little thinner for me because now there's injuries and the buys coming
Yeah.
in. So there's a lot of options, and when you start doing your research, especially in this position, you can get kind of clouded by what you find.
And, I think I read a lot this week, and I recommended Antavian Wicks sitting here at 24 over in Green Bay. He's had a huge week last week, but he had a couple 0 games too in there, weeks 1 and 3. But
Great
with
matchup
Christian
today.
Watson out, I think you got to start him if you have him. And then another guy I recommended, if you're catching our shorts, if not, subscribe to the channel. Keep an eye out for some shorts, especially on Tuesday. We'll give you some waiver
We
recommendations.
will get more shorts going. It's
Yeah.
a little difficult to get those things popping, but
Yeah, but this guy, I think you're confident with him, especially if Flacco's going. I don't know off the top of my head, but look,
I
mean,
believe Flacco's starting
then,
today.
Then this guy, you got to start him. He only started week 3, coming off an injury, but once he got going in week 4, he was going. So
A year 2 receiver, and as you know, if you've been following along, I love year 2 receivers.
absolutely,
That's a guy I would start too. Like I said, it gets kind of thin.
Oh,
Who's
it's
on
thin
who's
down
on
here.
bye? What do we start doing? So a lot of these guys, I would still start any of them if you have to. But again, you want to try to stay with somebody ranked inside of the top 45. If you don't have them on your team, I'm sure there's someone in the waiver wire that you could probably start to plug and play and help fill your bye week losses.
Yes, sir.
Uh,
Okay, I think we covered that swiftly and efficiently. Let's jump into tight ends. I know
So-
this is a wasteland for you.
Tight ends, just more of the same. It's just plug and play. Hope you got a guy,
Oh
but
man, and even the guys that have been solid have been they kind of no waiver on their consistency.
this is where you have trust issues right here.
Yeah,
I'm
oh,
pretty
gosh.
sure every fantasy owner owns somebody that had a good week, had a bad week.
I am shocked with Kelsey here, number 1. It took him a long time to get going. Let's look at his game log. 4, 1, 5. Last week 12. He's doubled his.
And he got a
points
lot
of
of
the week.
targets, but this
Yeah.
is a position where it's like if I had him, I'm on the fence. Do I
Well,
trust him or
I
not?
think
Because
with the Rashee Rice injury, he's gonna. I think that's what they're banking.
I
on,
think
that
his
he's just gonna be a
targets-
funnel.
his targets are definitely going to pick up. He was end zone crazy before, and it still hasn't happened yet this season.
And if you caught that
so-
injury last week, Mahomes throws an interception. Rashee Rice and Mahomes are going for the guy, and Mahomes just kind of fell down right into his knee and just
Takes out his own guy.
Takes his own guy out. Oh man, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of hate for the Chiefs, but You got
Yeah, that's
that
a
one.
tough situation to stomach right there. However, those Chiefs fans, they've got back-to-back Super Bowl wins, so I
Yeah,
don't
so you can't feel
necessarily
that
feel bad
sorry.
for them because
No.
injuries happen to everyone.
Uh-huh.
But the hot waiver wire pickup this week at the tight end position was Tucker Kraft, coming in at number 7 in the
Ooh,
rankings
there he
this
is.
week. If you picked him up, congratulations. It looks like he's going to be getting heavily targeted. This is a guy, if you had one of these top guys that haven't been performing, I would easily replace them with them because, especially
yeah.
if I'm in a redraft league, I have no loyalty at this position, and
Oh.
I would start this guy in all formats.
Yeah, and if you have either Baltimore tight end, I don't feel confident starting either of them. I mean, they
And
can potentially both be waiver drops at this
and
point.
that's a position exactly right there. You're spot on. I would drop one of those two in a redraft league.
Oh my gosh, in a redraft league, you potentially took Andrews in the first 3 rounds. And then you coming in, you might be spending your waiver bids like a guy did in our league just to get his backup, Isaiah Likely. Let's pull him up real quick, just while we're talking about him.
Yeah, he's down there at
They're
16.
just dropping like flat. Yeah, here's Andrews 20. This
Yeah.
guy's been a top 3 tight end for I don't know last 3-4 years.
It's
And-
tough to tell at this position.
Oh,
Like,
yeah,
what are you
so-
gonna do? Like,
yeah, this guy 2 duds in a row.
oh yeah,
You're not starting him.
I'm not starting this guy.
Nope. And then Likely, there he is. Here's his flash, 21.6, and then nothing. Maybe
Hell of a
maybe it has
first
something to do
week.
with the karma. He was leaving the tunnel. He said "FUB"
Oh,
on the way
yeah.
out. Maybe that just came back to bite him.
Yeah, he's not even getting targeted now.
Ah,
So
man.
yeah, I'm
Yep.
not starting either of those guys. Like I
Nope.
said, this position very thin.
Nope.
You got a
Yeah.
top guy. Congratulations.
You
If
got
you don't,
someone top
luck.
12 in these rankings you find, just start them, and whatever happens, happens. You're kind of the will of the fantasy football gods. All
Yeah.
right, so I think that's it for our ranking analysis this week. Maybe we can jump into the closing with Steve.
I would
league.
love to go to the closing with Steve League. So normally, if
Alright.
you've been following along, there's specific music that we do for specific bits. However, we have been getting copyright notifications like you wouldn't believe, and we are not even going to play that. The song that reminds me of Never Wanna Leave, but it's a different song by a different artist that if we play, we could possibly get our channel banned. So the music in the background this week, if you've been noticing, is all free public domain music.
We are
so
learning as we're going. Yep.
yes, if you play music that has copyright, they will just edit it out, and then when you watch this back, it will just be 2 guys talking, and we sound boring in that format.
That's okay. I think we got the flashy background. Hopefully, we can get our charisma. We're
Yeah.
gonna get some chemistry here. The more we get,
Yeah,
do this.
yeah. Because normally we joke around a little bit more, but there's a lot to worry about when
Yeah.
you're doing this. But
I know.
one less worry this week is you ain't getting me for copyright this week. Because right on here it says royalty-free music for YouTube, and that's what we're doing. So we're rolling, and there's
Aspiring
hours.
lawyer Mike here. He knows his stuff.
I just don't want to lose potential money.
Nope.
But anyway, if we go over to our closing with Steve rankings, we are having a hell of a season in this league.
Yeah, we got a few teams firing all cylinders, and we have some that are just at the wrong end of the stick in
So
these matchups.
if you look at the standings as far as win-loss, the top 3 guys, they are also the top 3 point scorers, so that bodes well.
So yours truly, Haddonfield Slashers, coming off the league championship. I only have 7-7 record last year. I don't think I would not have been favored going into the playoffs, but you get hot at the right time, anything's possible. So just as long as you can squeak into the playoffs, there's hope. So
You're
don't ever
rolling.
give up. You could start 0-4, and you could just fire back, and you could go all the way. To
Yeah,
the
at this
championship.
point in the season, record doesn't necessarily matter.
It helps
However,
a lot, but there is still hope for you.
it's time to start getting a little worried.
Yeah.
Because if you went down to the bottom of the league there
Oh,
at
man.
0-4, California
Yeah,
Wildfire,
let's just scroll this so you can see over in this last column, second to last column. This is points against.
so this is unlucky.
Yeah, so the most points scored by a team in the league, we got just over 600. Myself, Las Vegas Outlaws, and you got some, mid to high 500s. And then if you come down here to Matt, the California Wildfire, he has 700 points scored against him.
So that is one way you can be unlucky.
Extremely unlucky.
Going against teams having their best week. However, then if we went into his roster,
Okay, let's pull him up.
he has Tyreek Hill, who's dealing with the Tua injury, so that's
Okay.
severely
Ah,
affecting
the whole
his
Miami
team.
offense is just anemic right now.
And then his running back position has been up and down. So he's dealing with 2 of the typical fantasy unlucky bouts, but that doesn't
Yeah,
mean, like you
I
said,
like-
you can't
Yeah,
rebound.
I like Williams. He's had a solid year. But then, yeah, who else you got? Yeah, obviously, he's starting 4 receivers. That's probably the way to go when you don't have a lot of guys
And this was the
on your
second
bench.
highest point scoring team in the league last
Oh,
year.
yeah, last year they were literally on fire.
Yeah. So
The
that doesn't
wildfire.
mean they're out of it by now. So if you are also in a league where you happen to be 0-4, have a little faith. But
Yeah, have faith.
it's time to start, locking in a little bit
Yeah,
because
you really want to research your waiver ads. Maybe that you can turn it around, get lucky. There is a lot of luck involved. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's 70-30, 70% luck, 30% skill.
Yeah,
So
and
you don't have a lot you can really sway or move your own way. But if you are consistent, you're going to help your odds. So why not?
And especially with this being a dynasty league, obviously he's built for runs like this. You kind of just got to weather storms. Every
Yeah.
team deals with injuries as well as getting a lot of points dropped on you. But let's go into some of the matchups for that
All
league
right.
this week because it's kind of a decisive week in this league. Like I said, hopefully the Wildfire get out of that hole. A battle of top teams in the Elyria Pioneers, myself, and the Allenville Mean Machine. Projected to be a high-scoring matchup. Again,
One thing I'm noticing here, Fantrax, they recently updated their interface and they show matchup predictions now. This is new for me this year. At least I have not noticed this in the past.
I never noticed
So
that
that's pretty
percentage
cool, yeah.
myself. No.
I think just last week's the first time I noticed it, and before that, you're used to seeing this on like ESPN. But Fantrax, I've been very happy with the user interface. This is only our second year using it, but I would recommend Fantrax to anybody that
And
wants to
this
do
is again a wonderful
extensively.
site.
Yeah, you got the most customization options. I think you have the most control over the format, scoring, and transactions.
And even if you don't understand something, which I've had a few issues trying to commission this league, their customer service is wonderful. These guys, you can end up, once you get started with one, you end up email chatting back and forth, and they will help you no matter how big or small your issue is. Love this site, and they actually handle the money too. So you just
shout out to Fantrax.
send that to them.
Sorry to derail your matchup. So we were talking.
No, that's okay. So in this matchup, I just like how both teams are set up. However, Allenville's dealing with an injury this week, so that could be a little unlucky. The Pioneers have one of their receivers on a bye week, but that's
Those
a matchup
Thursday games. I mean, we got a lot of points out there for a few teams.
And there's another matchup there, that Washington and Scranton matchup. Again, two owners that
Just dig into one.
the
here.
teams were a little better last year, and I believe they're at identical records this year, so it's a make or break week for them as well.
Mhm.
As I still get some ads playing in the background. Royalty free music, but still on YouTube, and
Yep.
they hit you with them little ads.
Gotta shout out somebody. That's how it's free.
But again, and then that Miami and Santa Cruz matchup down there on the bottom. Miami has some firepower. They benefited from a very good Thursday night. Drake
Absolutely.
London, 12 catches.
There he is. We're catching the left side of this matchup over
Speaking
here.
of top receivers, I'm setting and forgetting. That is one right there. Congratulations if you have Drake London.
All right. Yeah, plenty of season to be had. Obviously, week 5, so
Well-
we're looking to turn it around.
Let's throw those standings back up there again for that
Yes,
league.
sir.
So if we look at the standings. Obviously, this league does a points for prize for the first and second. So outside of that, we also do division prizes. So if your league only does for the championship thing, that's fine. But there's a couple other options out there where you can kind of spread around a little bit of the money, or
Yeah. Once you got more money in there, you can start doing things like total points, second in points.
and that can
even
cover
third
some
place
areas where
prizes.
you're unlucky.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Again, like if you have the most points against, but you have the most points for, or second most, you're gonna get rewarded if you split your prize pool that way. There's
Absolutely.
more incentive throughout the year too for people to keep setting their lineups and digging into waivers and staying competitive. So a lot of times in redraft leagues, we're obviously a dynasty league, so we get the same team every year, and we're just building off that. But in a redraft league, you go out 0-4, you might just give up and uninstall the app and say screw it. But
No.
I mean, if you add a few extra incentives like total points or
Yeah.
second most, you could still turn it around at this point in the year and win a prize.
Yeah, because this is supposed to be fun, and everybody's not going to win a championship. Most leagues are 10 or 12 teams, and only one guy wins the championship.
Yeah.
So you want other guys to have a little shot at a little bit of fun. And
yeah. Obviously, you want to split the champion that have the most money just because they're the champ. But,
Yeah.
if you had the most points, you deserve a cut as well.
And this league is wide open again. This is a dynasty league of seasoned players. Most of these guys got over 10, 15 years of fantasy experience. They're rolling right along. But a lot of what I've been noticing about our content, Brian, as we move along from here, is the experts don't necessarily need our help. Like,
No.
they know exactly where to look, or they've got their own systems. They're sitting there plugging and playing, and they may listen to us, support us because they're our bros or whatever.
Yes,
Shout
sir.
out, thank you for that. We'll
It
still
might
take
be
that.
all we have listening right now, but if we got some people that don't know much about fantasy football, maybe we can
Yeah,
fill
because
you in, or you just enjoy watching, listening to us. Thank you.
so,
if
and
you
I've
do.
been getting more feedback from people that I would not necessarily say this in a negative way, but are beginners,
Yeah.
and that, hey, it's okay to ask some guys for help if you don't know, because the experts ain't doing it. Maybe they are
Yeah.
scared to because I've been doing it for a while, but I've had a couple people reach out to me this week for some advice, and honestly, first off, that felt pretty good. Thank you for
yeah.
that, everybody.
Pat on the back.
Just for even trusting me with that. But
Yeah, with that, we do have the chat function. So if you happen to be live with us, we are happy to answer any questions at any time. And again, as Mike alluded to, throughout the week, if you're just hitting us up, we're going to help you out. Again, we're just giving advice. We're by no means the experts. This is not
Yeah.
a full-time job, but we do enough research and we enjoy it enough that we kind of know what's going
yeah,
on. so
not
we can
trying
help
to
you out.
like walk around chest puffed out like
Yeah.
I'm Mr. Fantasy, but like
I
I
know.
know a couple things. And
Yeah.
if you asked my
Yeah.
my wife, I only watch sports. I don't know what else to watch on TV. She has to put something on for me to watch it, because if it's my choice, I'm gonna end up watching sports.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so if she puts something on, I'll watch anything with her, anything she wants. I'll do anything for her. But
It does help to have a sport-loving spouse.
yeah,
Shout out, Allie. Thank you.
yes, and that's where our biggest support comes from, is these women. And even now, for adjusting our Sunday mornings, I don't know about you, but my Sunday mornings used to be pretty chill, and we've just, for the sake of this show and
Yeah,
chasing a dream, we're
I know.
sacrificing
Yeah,
that.
no, I appreciate the support we have. I mean, this obviously can be a huge headache, and the result wasn't there last week, but I think we got a lot of the setup time behind us, and we can focus more on the content, and we're gonna be more efficient. There's no tear down or setup anymore. We're gonna have this just chilling down here, ready to go. We seems to have the technical difficulties out of the way.
I
Fingers
feel like
crossed.
everything's going fine.
Yeah, so I think the time put in was time well spent, and it's going to avoid, losing time in that pit. in
And
the
this
future.
little free
Yeah,
music
but-
one, this one is the
Let's
jam.
check out this jersey wall. We haven't really talked about it much, so I think you kind of you had a couple jerseys up the
Hey.
first 2 weeks, and then last week
Yeah,
it
the
really
walls
came
were a
together.
little bare the first couple
Yeah,
weeks.
so I think last week it really came together. Unfortunately, the stream cut out, so you might not have saw it. But now this is a
Yeah,
really impressive collection.
I got a pretty decent collection. Some of my favorite guys. A couple of them left right after I got their jersey, but like
Oh, yeah.
Beckham and Wilson. But just some of my favorites. I got a couple more, not necessarily in as good a condition, but again,
I can appreciate it. I mean, you got your hometown team growing up, Cincinnati. I mean,
yeah. Some of the
obviously-
goats,
yeah.
obviously, goat Tom Brady can't knock that.
I appreciate some Lions love too.
Yeah, and I obviously live here now, so I will support my local Lions. And I don't know if you noticed, I'm wearing the exact same thing I wore last week. And I'm not superstitious, but I am a little stitious. And my Bengals got a win last week, so I didn't want to mess any mojo up. I'm wearing word for word, bar for bar, everything I wore last week, down to the exact socks. And we're good to go. I'm hoping for a
Yeah.
Bengals victory this
I
week.
had a Bobby Higginson jersey on last week, and if you are a Detroit Tigers fan, you remember Bobby Higginson. That was during the low point in recent memory of the Detroit Lions, Tigers.
Yeah, Tigers
Yeah.
had some tough years.
Lack
I
of
do
sleep,
remember
I'm
that.
slurring my words, but yeah, I got the Gronk player tee on today. Just kind of pulled this out of the closet. Didn't know when I would have use for it. But, I can wear whatever I want.
Arguably one of the GOAT tight ends.
Oh, yeah.
Arguably. But let's move along from here as the music switches up, which that was a good song. I was kind of liking that one.
Yeah.
We want to start jumping into our family league that we're in. So I don't know if you had that
Alright. Yeah,
ESPN
let me
league
get
pulled up,
that
or you
going
can
in the
pull it up.
background. You can.
So in this league, this has quite a few beginners, but everyone's a family member, even down to my adopted nephew, Umair. Shout out to you, sir. Everybody in this league is pretty much new or helping out somebody new, as me and Brian are also in that league. And again, we're just trying to spread the fun. So some people watch football, but I think if you do a fantasy league, it adds a little bit of the extra excitement while you're watching a game, as opposed to if you don't have a team. If you're just your favorite team's not on, then you have no interest in whatever game's on. But if that's your backup running back, maybe you want to keep an eye on him because you need him to get 60 yards so you can win your matchup against your brother-in-law this week,
Yeah.
or whatever it is. So
Yeah, I find that fantasy sports it just creates an interest in people that were previously uninterested in sports. You got people that never watched a football game in their life, and they're watching whatever game they can get their eyes on if their person's going. And it's a really fun thing to do, especially if you have a lot of friends that like sports, and maybe you grew up without watching sports. But there's a way. For
And
anybody.
one of the best cases of that is actually my wife. She's not the biggest football fan. She'll watch games with me and she'll follow along, but now she's hitting me up during the week. Hey, this guy's injured. What am I supposed to do? Or, oh, come on, we really need to win this matchup. We got this going on. And I'm glad that she's taking the excitement up out there. And I hope there's other people picking up on that excitement out there, because this game is growing. Fantasy sports have been around for quite a while. And obviously this is something anybody can compete in.
Oh, absolutely.
And who doesn't like football? This is America's new pastime. I know baseball used to be our favorite pastime, but the
All
football
right.
content is insane right now.
All right, I am ready with the family league, so I'm going to cut over to this. So this league, it came together in the 12th hour. It was like I'm sitting here. We obviously did the dynasty league, so we didn't have a full draft this year. And the last 5-10 years, I've had a fantasy draft, and it's an exciting thing to prepare for.
It's fun to draft.
I'm like, hey Mike, you got any insights on league? He's like, no, not really, but I'm down to do one. I'm like, all right. And I've never commissioned league. I just threw it together. I'm like, let's just do a family league. We'll get the in-laws, we'll get brothers, brother-in-laws. Shout out to Anthony out there.
Anthony, his team is firing all cylinders this year too.
We got the wives in here, a couple family friends, the dads. It's just like three guys that have never, or three people have never done a league before. But
We got our father-in-law in here.
I was thinking, I'm like trying to come up with a cool league name. Like, I don't know, I don't even know what a team name I could do. But I did First and Ghoul, and if you know me, I am huge into Halloween. I don't even have any Halloween stuff out this week. Yeah, but once we get going, we're gonna have some Halloween content. So, but with that, I think Mike might have been the first team to sign up. Signed up as Crystal Lake Lifeguards, and then after that, they just kind of fell into place. Mine, the Gridiron Cannibals. We got Revenge of the Nerds, that's a sci-fi. I don't know about horror. But then we got Tortured Coaches Department. That can be a little spooky.
Some
They're
cool,
T
fun
Swift,
names in that.
And Babes, Nightmare on Brush Street. If you don't know Brush Street, that's where the Lions Ford Field is. So I was really impressed with that name.
Yeah.
Out from Anthony. Then you got Moo Moo's Menacing Monsters. Kurt's cool team. He just stuck with the generic one, but that's so cool.
That's the ESPN name?
Yes.
That's cool too. That's how my channel is, this label that this YouTube channel is. That was the name they gave me, and I said, okay, I'm Michael Ament 1369. I don't know what that means.
Nothing
but
wrong with that. And we got the Wicked Wolves, Devil's Den. My dad's name is Dennis, so that is kind of funny. Booty Beaters.
That is my
Umair.
nephew,
Shout
Umair.
out.
I'm going to just call him my
And
nephew.
Swift
That's
Slashers.
family. So again, this is a fun league. There's some beginners. So everybody's trying to get their feet wet, try to figure this out, and have some fun.
I mean,
And
look at me. I'm down here in 10th place. So
And
by
I'm
no
right
means as
behind you.
experienced. Yep. And we got the Crystal Lake Lifeguard. So the two of arguably the most experienced fantasy players in the league were
And that's how
in the
redraft
bottom.
leagues
Yeah.
go. So this can go any way, especially if a draft, you get lucky, or if you're unlucky dealing with some injuries. In a redraft league, it doesn't matter, because this where more luck comes involved
absolutely.
than skill
Like,
in
I
a
was
redraft
so confident
league.
in my team, and I am just living off waiver wires right now. I'm not starting half the guys I drafted. So
And I am going against pretty tough weeks too, as we touched on in that Closing with Steve league. I'm getting the 4th most points scored on me. So this league is kind of tough, but also I'm having the most fun because like I'm paying attention to something else. We got to do another
Yeah, and
draft.
we got a lot of the family into it, so it's like it's a fun thing to talk about.
And that's what most fantasy leagues are. It's going to be like a lot of your family members and close friends. Most of these leagues are
Yeah.
8 to 12 teams. So
Yeah, I mean, I just find myself texting people more that I wouldn't, or talking like we have something else to talk about, and it's a real.
And if you're
bonds with people,
and if
it's
you're
fun.
competitive, it like raises those juices because it's like, oh, I want to beat this one, or I'm not trying to lose to them.
And we do have a question coming in from the chat. John G, thoughts on T. Higgins scoring? So let's give some advice, personalized out to John.
So I am an expert on Cincinnati Bengals doings, John. So you came to the right place for that question. This is what I'll let you know. They're trying. You can see. I've watched every Bengals game this year. I've been actually fortunate enough to watch every minute of the game, so that's been cool. They're trying to get him there. He's definitely getting targeted within the flow of the game. It's just not necessarily working out, but if you had to ask me a percentage chance on what I would say that T. Higgins scores this week, it's over 70%. So I hope that helps you.
I'd bet on that.
I do think he's going to score because, obviously Joe is trying to spread that around and other guys are involved in the offense. However, he goes in the flow too, so he doesn't try to force things. And this is a game where they could be focused a lot of their attention on Jamar Chase. So that leaves targets for T. Higgins and Gesicki or even Eric All, tight end.
We got Yoshi out there
for end zone target. And then obviously Yoshi's getting a lot of red zone targets. But
yeah, he might not be a consistent starter per week, but if you're in a dynasty league, he's worth a stash. And I definitely stashed him on my bench in hopes that he could be the guy in a couple years.
And I like that game specifically, John, to have a lot of points in that game. A division game. These two teams don't necessarily like each other. Baltimore has become our rival. Much respect to them, though. But they're going to run the ball all over on us, and Joe Burrow's going to have to pass a lot to try to keep up. So I could easily see this being an over 50, 55 point scoring game. Joe Burrow, 2 or 3 touchdowns. So yeah, I do think T could get one. I'd place that, some kind of action on that. Hope that helps, John. Not going to say 100%. Because I just don't know, because he does have a lot of options there, but he is trying. You can see they've gone to him a couple times and just not part of the flow.
Yeah.
Thanks for that, man. Speaking of that, I kind of consider John an expert too. So even to ask a question, just whether he's supporting or genuinely needed that help. Thank you, John.
Yeah,
shout out, brother.
We appreciate it. Yeah, let's get that going. I think we're running low on time this week. We got about 10 minutes left, so I think we want to get Ella down here for her segment.
Let's see if we can have the ladies send Ella down because we did a little work now. We didn't get to show the work we did last week with our Ella's Pick 6. So we have graphics already queued up. So before we were like scrolling on the website and letting her pick the games live with us, but we don't have to do that this week. We've pre-selected games she would like to pick from. And then we have these logos set up in little photo grids, nothing fancy, just something I did here on my phone.
Yeah, we're definitely working on the technical side. I think it's going to be a little more seamless now. And now that the setup's done, we're going to have more time for the fun, the cool graphic stuff to start popping out.
Like I said, it's not no budget, but it's low budget. And we're just using free tools that are available to us until we hit this ground running. But I like what I've put together for Ella's Picks this week. So, and hopefully it comes across on the screen well. As she's making her way down to us.
I hear her creaking down the stairs right now. So
Ella's record this year is very respectable for a 6-year-old girl making picks. However, if this was a gambling record, it would not be the best record. But for a 6-year-old girl, this record, So the first week 1, Ella got 1 win, which that was exciting. Her first win ever. However, that means that she had 5 losses, but we were just looking for improvement, and improvement came.
That is good. I'm going to go usher her in.
That sounds good. I'll take us from here. In week 2, Ella went ahead and won 2 games. So that's improvement. It means she still lost 4, but we were rolling right along. And week 3, further improvement. As Ella went 3-3, she won 3 games, and their season's rolling right along. Hello, beautiful. And then last week, which we only got audio only of your picks, Ella, you had 2 wins and 4 losses. That brings her her season total to 8 wins, 16 losses. Not too bad. 6-year-old girl. Ella, welcome to the show.
All right, so we're gonna pop her graphic on the screen.
Go ahead, put that in. We're okay.
So these are the 6 matchups she's gonna be picking from here, and let me throw it up on the other screen so she can see it as well. So we got it in front of us. We got it overlaid on the screen. So let's see what one we're gonna start with. Let me get right on over here. I gotta do a little
How's it going, Ella?
background work.
Pretty good.
How was your week this week?
Oh, it was kind of nice.
I heard you went to your first haunted house. You want to tell the people how that went?
Oh,
But it went kind of good, but the monsters were like chasing me down the street.
yeah. Ella was very weary, and I don't know. Let's see. She tiptoed her way in, but she was brave and was enjoying it by the end. So, and it was the largest haunted house in Michigan, and we're talking about Erebus. If you live in Michigan, you know about the Erebus Haunted Attraction. It's been around 25th anniversary this year, and they have a tally for people that quit, quitters, and wetters, if you know what that means. And Ella did not. She's not a statistic. She made it through.
Okay, Ella.
Yeah, we got the young, and we started them young, and she is a horror
And this
fan.
is a spooky family, and we love that
Oh,
stuff.
yes.
And Ella went ahead and made it through.
Hey, props to Ella. So over here, first pick we got between the New York Giants and the Seattle Seahawks.
So, Ella, when you see this, what do you think?
New York Giants.
You like
Ooh,
the Giants. Okay, that's a good pick. I'll lock that in. Ella, before we move on to your next pick, what do you think of this song? We have to play like weird music that like nobody knows because it's like free, so people don't sue us. But do you like this one? I don't know if I like this one.
Yeah, it's kind of like a wavy, calming something.
You want this one or do you want something more energy? What do you like for your picks? We'll do this one. Well, that one did an ad. So let's move on to your next pick, and when the ad's done, we'll see what that one plays.
All right, so let's move over to the next pick. Next pick we
New York
have
Giants locked in pick
Yep,
one.
locked in the Giants. So now we're over to the Arizona Cardinals and San Francisco 49ers. Who do you like, Ella? 49ers, little background on that. So the gold rush of 1849, I want to say, or 1749, whatever. There was a gold rush, and the year was 49 in one of those centuries, and that's where the 49ers get their name.
What a weird name, right? What
Yep.
kind of team is called the 49ers?
Niner 49er. So
Bang, bang,
no
Niner
background
gang.
music.
Huh?
That's what they like to chant. Bang, bang, Niner gang.
So with that information, Ella, who do you think?
What's the first team?
The bird. This is the Arizona Cardinals.
I want that. The Cardinals. 'cause-
Cardinals.
Let's
Lock
lock
'em
in the
in.
Arizona Cardinals. People will call that an upset. Ella loves upsets. Let's go.
Right.
I like your style.
And
Beautiful.
we're cruising now. Now we have the Oakland Raiders. Raiders, that's kind of like a pirate.
Yeah.
And then the Denver Broncos.
Broncos. Ella has picked, if you've been following along, the Broncos every week. And surprisingly, they are 2-2. So, wow. Good season for the Broncos. But Ella, when you see these two matched up, what do you think?
Well, I'm gonna have to follow along with my daily, so probably the Broncos.
You gonna stick with your Broncos?
Ride, Broncos, ride.
Okay, so we are
Oops.
locked
Let's
in
ride.
with
Russell
the
Wilson,
Giants,
troll right there.
the Cardinals, and the Broncos.
Mhm.
Okay, moving on. We are on
This is my favorite one.
favorite
Oh,
one.
you like
yeah,
these
these are some
ones?
cool logos. We got the Carolina Panthers and the Chicago Bears. Who do you like?
You like this song?
Yeah, she's jamming now.
I changed the music to something you
Yeah.
like better.
The Bears.
Bears, the Bears. Okay, we'll
Oh,
lock that in.
Bears.
Ella takes the Chicago Bears again, another one of your favorite teams to pick from. However, they were playing the Panthers, and that was another one of your favorite picks. But we'll roll with the Bears this week.
Yep, we'll roll with the Bears. Good pick. All right, two left. We got the Buffalo Bills. I think, I always wonder
nice.
what was going on with this logo. They got the little stripe, make it look like the Buffalo is
Yeah.
just kind of lunging forward, and then
Yeah.
then the Texans, very very good logo here. You got the
It's
Lone
like a
Star
fusion
State.
that between a classic and a retro logo,
Yeah.
or a futuristic and a retro logo.
Yep, you know,
So when you see this, Ella, this team on the left is the Buffalo Bills,
Buffalo
and the team
Bills.
on the right is the Houston Texans.
The Texans.
You want to roll with the Texans?
all right.
Okay.
I think
We
might-
will lock that
yeah,
in.
that's going to be a good matchup.
Good matchup. Can't wait to see that one.
Right.
Josh Allen's revenge game.
Yep. Rounding it off, the Indianapolis Colts and the Jacksonville Jaguars. Colts, that's a type of horse.
The
For
Jaguars.
those of you at
He's gonna
home.
roll with the Jaguars. Division
Yeah.
matchup, and
Hey.
Ella will take the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Well, she's
Daddy went
rolling
to-
with Trevor Lawrence this
Yeah,
week.
Daddy went to bat for their quarterback. I
Yeah.
said he would have a good week, so we agree on that. I like your style. Okay, so if we pull that graphic up again with all of the picks, as I try to skip over another ad here again, we will lock in Ella's pick 6, which this is a lot of people's favorite part of the show. You're pretty cute, and you've actually been doing really good with your picks, if you ask me. Although I don't recommend gambling on all of these picks. Gambling is just for fun. We'll get to that as we round out our last 2 or 3 minutes of the show. I do have 2 or 3 recommendations, and we'll
All right.
keep this show moving on. So, Ella, thank you for your pick 6. Do you want to stick around while I tell the people what to bet on? You might as well finish the show with us, right? Okay, so
5-minute warning here. Let's get it in.
we
and-
are rounding out
Yeah.
again. If you tuned in this week, I feel like we followed along kind of how we wanted to. We're
Yeah.
just going to button up now our actual technical stuff. I
Yeah.
don't think we had to worry too much about
No,
anything
everything
else
was
outside
pretty
of here.
seamless. You know, I'm fumbling around on the rankings and a couple of pictures, but I think without the setup, I'm
The-
going to be able to smooth that out for the future. And
Chat was working
chat's
good.
working. We're interactive. We got none of the jerseys fell off the wall. We hand hooked them here 5 minutes before we started.
The
So
jerseys look
Yeah.
great. Collection
Everything's
looking
looking good.
great. Thank you for that. Definitely a less hectic week. However, so there are a couple of things that I wanted to recommend in betting. And I want to try to have this clippable for later on in the week. But
okay.
the first thing that I was very confident in was the Buffalo Bills on the road against the Houston Texans, which I know Miss Ella here just picks the Houston Texans. I'm just taking Buffalo plus 1.5, so maybe they still lose by the 1 point. Josh Allen's revenge game. I like Houston. There's nothing wrong with them. I have no issues with that team, and I could easily be wrong about this. But I just expect Josh Allen to be locked in, especially after losing last week. I expect that offense to be firing. What do you think, Ella? It's okay. Go ahead, play this song's good too. You could check this one out. So I wanted to, like I said, lock in Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, that's
plus
such a close
1.5.
line. I think it just comes down to home field advantage for the Texans, really.
And
probably
it
what
could
the
go
bettors
in
are looking
either
at.
way, and it's a 1 o'clock game, so it's not like it's a primetime game. A little less pressure. Just love that spot. If you ask me where I'm going to physically bet my money today, I'm going to bet my money on Buffalo plus 1.5. I also like this one. It's tough to say as it's on the screen right there, but the
Yeah.
Cleveland Browns. I'm so sorry to my Cleveland family. It's nothing personal. If you know me, I am from Cleveland. I'm not a Browns fan. However, I'm a supporter, and I wish them well. But Washington Commanders -3 at home against the Cleveland Browns. To me, this is a no-doubter, as Washington's scoring a lot of points
Washington
lately.
has just been on a roll. And the Browns are still figuring it out. So I mean, you got to take
And
Commanders.
you know the
Even
Browns
as
have a good
hometown
defense.
team. It's hard to go against your hometown team, but
Yeah.
you can't deny that.
But for me, where I'm gonna put some money today, again, no disrespect to my hometown, but Washington -3, I expect a lot of points, and I only like one other thing for today,
Okay.
and this one, I've backed them in week 1, and I actually won quite a bit of money off of this one bet.
Ooh.
However, they're an underdog again this week. Dallas Cowboys. Okay, Ella, we just got one more minute.
One
here,
more and you can help
sweetheart,
us
and
say
then you're
goodbye.
gonna help us say goodbye. So, Dallas Cowboys on the road against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Dallas getting 2.5 points. I feel safer with my money there, but I'm actually going to put my money on Dallas money line at plus 130 odds. I think the Cowboys can beat the Steelers this week, as I let it add there.
Oh, yeah. Cowboys, they're fired up. I think we saw that last week. CeeDee Lamb was frustrated and came out, had a huge week, and I think they're just going to keep rolling.
I
So,
expect more of the same. This is a must-win week. So, again, that was Buffalo plus 1.5, Dallas Cowboys money line, and Washington Commanders -3, and that's all I like to bet on
book
today.
it. I got some bonus bets. I might throw them in there. Just we're going to back the show and see how that goes.
Sounds like a plan.
All right.
So Ella, as we finish, go ahead and put this in. Let's go ahead and sign off for the people. I would like to wish both of our baseball teams luck tomorrow. However, I know we both support different sides, Brian.
Yes.
But as we said earlier, it's been an exciting
We
baseball
do have the
season,
helmets
and
here, if you didn't mention it. I got the Cleveland helmet, ironically.
yeah, and that's okay because
all
we
right.
just have it set up. But again, it's been an exciting baseball season, and I want more of the same. And I didn't want a song like that to
And we're
ride out
rocking
on.
the foam finger circa Tigers Stadium. So that thing has been around the block. That stadium's been gone for a while. They've been at Comerica Park for a long time now.
Beautiful park. If you've
So-
never been to Comerica, please make your way out there. I made it there 11 times this season. Beautiful place.
All right.
So I think that's about it, Brian. What do you think?
I think that's it. We can end it there. Man, production value today. I think we got it in, and we are very happy with it.
Decent week. I can't wait to watch the tape, study it, and figure out
Oh,
how to
yeah.
get even better for the next week.
Yep. I think with that out of the way, we're going to have more time to focus on the content, and it's going to just get better.
And the last thing, so I mentioned in week 1, most of these type of shows don't make it to week 4. We obviously made it to week 4. There was an even smaller percentage of people, 90% of people don't make it to week 5. We've completed week 5. So
Wow.
now our dream, we are just battling the 10%ers. And if you would have told me when I even had this idea that I'd make it into the top 10% of that, I would have said you're crazy, but here we are. So again,
Here we
thank you,
are.
Brian.
All right. Thank you, Mike. Yeah, thanks for having me. I mean,
We're rolling right
I
along.
just jumped in, and I have a cool idea. See how I
And-
can help.
And I like where our show is heading. So week 5 complete, and we look to get better for each week. Again, thank you to our supporters. We could not do any of this without
Yep.
you.
Thank you, viewers, and